Every day, Nora, who sold food by the roadside, would give meals to a small homeless child from her little stall. On the outskirts of the city, away from the main road, there was a narrow street where a small food stall opened at the same hour every day. Its owner, Nora, had worked there for years. She wasn't rich, but she knew how to share what little she had. People came to her stall not only because her food was good, but because of her warmth. One day, she noticed a small boy standing quietly in front of the stall for a long time. He didn't speak. He only stared at the pot. His clothes were worn, his shoes almost falling apart. Nora realized he had no money, yet she filled a plate anyway. "Here," she said softly. The boy looked at her in surprise, then lowered his head and took it. From that day on, the boy came every day. He said his name was Austin, but nothing more. He took the food and often left without eating it there. Nora didn't ask why. Some children's silence tells more than long explanations ever could. As days passed, Austin's small habits caught her attention. Sometimes he clutched the plate tightly, sometimes he hurried away. Nora understood that the food wasn't just for him. Still, she didn't push. Helping someone didn't mean demanding answers. One evening, when the street was nearly empty, Austin stopped and spoke voluntarily for the first time. "My mother is sick," he said simply. Nora's heart tightened. In that moment, she understood why every bite mattered so much. Austin's mother, Vivian, lived in a forgotten corner of the city, a place people passed every day without truly seeing. It was not officially a neighborhood, not listed on any map, and never mentioned unless someone was complaining about crime or poverty. Behind an unfinished concrete building, abandoned long before its promise could become reality, Vivian and her son struggled to survive. Exposed steel rods rose from broken pillars like frozen bones, and rainwater carved dark lines down the gray walls. During the day, the place trapped heat and dust. At night, cold air crept through every opening, settling deep into their bodies. This structure was never meant to be a home. Yet for Vivian and Austin, it was shelter, hiding place, and prison all at once. The floor was hard concrete. Their few belongings fit into one worn bag and a broken plastic crate. Every sound echoed: the wind, distant traffic, footsteps passing too close. Vivian learned to measure safety by silence. Her illness did not arrive suddenly. It crept in slowly, politely, almost gently. At first, she blamed exhaustion. Then came the coughs that refused to fade, the dizziness that forced her to sit down mid-step, the pain that settled into her chest and stayed. Breathing became work. Standing became difficult. But fear kept her away from hospitals. Fear, and money she didn't have. Vivian saved what little strength remained for her son. She smiled when he looked at her, even when her body screamed otherwise. Mothers like her learned early that weakness frightened children more than truth. Austin noticed everything. Children raised by survival always do. He learned the rhythm of his mother's breathing at night, counting the pauses between breaths before allowing his eyes to close. Some nights, he didn't sleep at all. He simply listened. In the mornings, before leaving, he knelt beside her, adjusting the thin mat beneath her aching body, brushing dust from her hair, whispering promises he didn't fully understand. Leaving her alone terrified him. Staying meant hunger. Hunger had already taken too much from them. The streets became Austin's classroom. He learned where the sun fell hardest, where shadows offered brief rest, and which corners were dangerous. He learned that most people avoided eye contact, as if seeing him might make his situation contagious. Some looked annoyed. Some looked guilty. Few looked kind. Rejection became routine. It stopped hurting in sharp ways and started hurting in quiet ones. What frightened Austin more than rejection was hope. Hope appeared without warning and disappeared just as fast. He learned not to trust it. Then there was Nora's food stall. It sat beside a busy road, surrounded by noise and movement, yet it felt calm. The smell of warm food lingered in the air, familiar and comforting. Nora spoke gently, never rushed, never sharp. She never asked him where his parents were or why he was alone. She didn't study him like a problem to be solved. She treated him like a person. That difference mattered. At Nora's stall, Austin felt something rare: safety without conditions. He ate slowly, savoring warmth that reached beyond his stomach. For a few minutes each day, survival loosened its grip. Nora noticed more than she said. She noticed how Austin always wrapped leftover food carefully, how his eyes scanned the street before leaving, how his shoulders stayed tense even while eating. Concern settled into her quietly. One afternoon, she followed him. She kept her distance, careful not to scare him. When he turned into a narrow passage and disappeared behind the abandoned building, her steps slowed. Inside, she found Vivian. The air felt heavy with shame and gratitude. Vivian tried to sit up, apologizing for the mess, for the space, for needing help. Her voice was weak but proud. Nora listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't offer advice. She simply stayed. Sometimes, being seen is more powerful than being saved. From that day on, Nora's routine quietly changed. She woke earlier. cooked more, saved portions without counting the cost. Austin noticed. He always noticed, for the first time, kindness felt steady, but lives hidden in shadows rarely stay invisible forever.
That afternoon, the air felt heavier than usual. The street was the same street. Yet there was an unsettling silence that hinted something was approaching. And that silence was shattered when four black SUVs slowly entered the road and stopped directly in front of Nora's stall. When the engines shut off, conversations around them died instantly. People instinctively stepping back. Because these vehicles did not belong to this neighborhood, they were expensive, powerful, and completely out of place. The doors opened almost at the same time, and as the men stepping out scanned their surroundings with sharp, watchful eyes, Austin's body tensed without him realizing it. He stepped backward and moved a little closer to Nora because life had taught him that things that arrived suddenly were rarely good. Nora noticed immediately. She wiped her hands slowly and stepped beside the boy, trying to remain calm as her protective instinct moved faster than her thoughts. Then Gabriel stepped out of the car. His clothing, his posture, and the respect shown to him by the men around him clearly marked him as a man of power. Yet his face told a different story, one of regret carried for years, suppressed but never erased. Gabriel had not come to the street for the first time, but this was the first time he had returned. Years earlier, he had fled from here in fear, hiding behind excuses, distancing himself from responsibility. When he left Vivian and the unborn child behind, he convinced himself it was better for everyone, because accepting the truth required courage and he did not have it. Over time, money came, power came, reputation followed, but when he was alone at night, the past came to like a voice that could not be silenced. And now as he looked at Austin, that voice grew louder. The caution in the child's eyes, the tension in his shoulders. His silence. Gabriel was seeing himself, the version he once turned away from in the mirror. When someone spoke Vivian's name, the walls he had built inside himself collapsed. That name was the center of everything he had run from. Gabriel tried to speak, but the words would not come easily. At the same time, Vivian's condition worsened. Her exhaustion was heavier that day, her breathing shorter, and when she suddenly collapsed, panic shattered the fragile calm. The trip to the hospital blurred together sirens, rushing footsteps, cold lights. The doctor's serious expressions hid nothing. Time was critical. The situation was severe. Gabriel paid without asking a single question, because for the first time, money truly meant nothing. The hospital nights were long. The hours refused to move, the steady rhythm of machines drilling into the mind. Sitting in the chair, Gabriel relived the past again and again, his leaving, his failure to return, every right decision he had postponed. When Vivian woke, their conversations were brief and cautious. There were no outbursts of anger, no sudden forgiveness. Some wounds did not scream, they simply existed in silence. For Austin, everything was even more complicated. The word father did not represent safety, it represented uncertainty. In his life, adults were either absent or temporary. Gabriel's presence was not a miracle to him, but a potential disappointment. Gabriel understood this and chose the harder path, staying. He did not defend himself, did not try to explain, did not ask for love. He simply came every day. He was there, every day. Nora watched this change from the sidelines, torn between her desire to protect Austin and her fear of losing her place in his life. She had never expected anything in return, but she had become attached. The past that arrived with those SUVs had entered their lives irreversibly, and each of them now stood silently before the same question. Even if it was too late, was it still possible to choose what was right? Vivian's recovery did not happen overnight. There was no dramatic miracle. No single morning when everyone suddenly felt relieved. Everything moved slowly, wrapped in a near patience-testing silence. During the first days in the hospital room, time felt heavy, and the steady rhythm of the machines grew louder at night, reminding Austin with every sound that his mother was still alive, just as he once did in the unfinished building. He counted Vivian's breaths here as well, only this time white sheets replaced cold concrete. Vivian struggled to speak, but whenever she woke and saw Austin, the faint smile that appeared on her face meant everything to him. Gabriel was always nearby, yet he kept his distance. He had learned that even kindness could feel frightening when it was forced. He sat in the chair for hours, sometimes staring at the wall in silence, sometimes listening to the doctors repeat the same explanations over and over. For the first time, money was not a solution, only a tool. The hardest part was waiting. As days turned into weeks, Vivian's condition fluctuated. Some mornings were better, others worse again. Austin learned to live with uncertainty. Life had taught him that there was a thin line between hope and caution. Nora came from time to time, carrying meals filled with familiar smells, her face calm as always. She never stayed long, never asked questions, she was simply there. That quiet support settled deeply in Austin's heart. When the day finally came for Vivian to be discharged, fear outweighed joy. The hospital was a safe uncertainty, while the outside world was real. After moving into the modest home Gabriel had arranged, Austin could not sleep on the first night. He touched the walls, opened and closed the door, looked out the window, trying to understand whether it was all real. Vivian watched him without saying a word, because some fears did not fade when spoken aloud. Over time, a new routine formed. Austin started school. He held his pencil with the same careful grip he once used to wrap food. At first, he was quiet, staying in the background, but eager to learn. Gabriel was there every day, sometimes talking, sometimes simply listening. Being a father, Austin realized, was not made of grand words, but of small, repeated actions. Trust was built slowly, almost without being noticed. Nora stepped back deliberately, willingly. She had never wanted to be at the center of anyone's life, but she had grown attached, and letting go hurt. Months later, when Austin returned to the roadside stall, where everything had begun, he realized how much time had passed. The stall was the same, the smells were the same, but Austin had changed. He had grown taller, his shoulders a little straighter. When Nora saw him, she smiled. Austin said nothing, he simply hugged her. "You didn't just feed me," he finally said, his voice trembling. "You helped me live." Nora closed her eyes, letting the moment pass, and whispered, "Sometimes a single plate of food can change the direction of a life." This story was not about wealth, and it was not about being saved. It was about the long, quiet echoes of a small act of kindness done when no one was watching. Dear viewers, what do you think about this touching story? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. I would truly love to read them. And guess what? In just a few days, I'll be uploading another very interesting story. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell, so you'll be notified as soon as it's released. If you enjoyed the story, please click the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching.